Thanks for everyone for coming. We're going to start off with a presentation from Bob on the request for proposal that deals with the process that we've been going through in connection with trying to determine who will come in and do the golf course and common grounds maintenance for next year. And then, actually, yeah, the contract will be for 5 years. And the other part, I guess, of this session for the resident forum will be if you have any other questions, either for the agenda items that will be on the board meeting for Wednesday of this week, or any other items, or any other questions that you may have. But I'll turn it over to Bill if he wants to say a few words, then I guess we'll get on with the forum.
Yeah, Bob, if you would maybe your presentation.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bob Ferris, and I was one of the architects on the RFP. And I'll try to explain why we have an RFP in this case and not an RFQ. And I put it up here. And I'll make this available to everyone tomorrow. I don't have any hard copies today, but I will put this presentation in an email. And I'll make some hard copies available at the front desk tomorrow. The request for proposal is a lot more comprehensive and detailed than an RFQ. Usually you have an RFP when you're looking at a problem and looking for a detailed solution where there may be multiple solutions. Or in this case, where it's a large magnitude contract. So you want to get down to all the specifics as to what the capabilities are of the bidders who are proposing to do the work. In RFQ, we use those in here also. It's mostly for construction type of projects where you know what the solution is. And you're just asking a bidder or a contractor to propose a price for the work that's to be done. So as you can see, there's a lot more detailed, comprehensive requirements with an RFP, and I'll explain what those are. When we went out with the RFP, we asked the contractor for 14 different items. And I've listed them here. I itemized the 14 of them. And the next couple slides I'll go into detail as to what the information is that we were looking for. You're looking at the contractor's qualifications. We wanted to know what his experience was in similar work efforts within the last 10 years. We wanted a description of the experience over those years, technical knowledge and certifications retained by the firm. You can read all that. Description of the proposed services. We wanted a brief description of the methods and processes that would be used by the contractor to achieve the level of services described in the maintenance spec. Okay, and also I have listed any special tools and equipment which would be used, etc. We wanted a description of the maintenance program. We wanted him to describe the proposed maintenance program for each of the areas, include a description of any seasonal activities that would be completed, describe how turf and planted areas will receive routine maintenance necessary to maintain the areas in a healthy and safe manner. Wanted a description of the QA program, provide a brief description of how the work sites would be inspected and evaluated, and a description of the type of corrective actions to be taken if the service quality was unacceptable. We wanted a description of the service complaint response procedure. Basically, if we were unhappy with his performance, would we resolve any of the differences or discrepancies? We wanted the qualifications and responsibilities of key personnel, such as the golf superintendent, his supervisor, regional supervisor, etc. Wanted any special provisions and considerations. That would mean describing and explaining any special delivery qualifications would be used by the contractor affecting the performance of the work, or other information pertaining to the delivery of any of the maintenance services. We wanted a copy of their financial statements, which was a full and detailed presentation of the true condition as of 2009 of the contractor's assets, liabilities, and network. So we wanted to know his financial health, and its viability. Wanted a general business statement of all the important business activities that proposes major businesses had to be included. We wanted a corporate structure in the organization. We wanted to know what their central support capabilities and procedures were. So if they went back to a home organization or some additional assistance in the performance of the contract, we wanted to know what those were. We wanted business references. We wanted at least 5 over the last 5 years. We wanted financial references, and they did provide the financial details of their accounts. And we wanted a price schedule. Okay, that basically was for 5 years, and we wanted them to separate out the golf course versus the common area. And the last thing we requested was a sample agreement, what the contract is proposed to do if they were awarded the contract. So now that we had all this information from contractors, we came up with an evaluation criteria on how to determine how suitable they were to service our association. So the first thing we looked at is the quality of the technical proposal. And does the proposal demonstrate that the offerer has a clear understanding of the task we are requiring him to perform? Basically, does he understand what we want him to do? Does the proposal show that the offerer will perform the necessary task? So we're looking at the frequency of how often he's mowing, how often he's applying pesticides, fungicides, etc. Does it meet the requirements of the detailed spec? Now, the detailed spec gave comprehensive, quantitative requirements as to the frequency of mowing, the application of chemicals, and so forth. The proposals had to describe how often they would accomplish those things. Does the proposal show that key personnel have the technical knowledge and experience required for functions, activities, and tasks needed to meet the requirements? Does the proposal adequately describe the man-hours needed for each task, and that the offerer has dedicated adequate man-hours sufficient to complete the requirement? And we looked at the quality of the management plan. Does the proposal provide clear, logical, and specific plans with provisions for identifying and correcting deficiencies and a process for ensuring quality and timeliness of the product? And we looked at their corporate experience and capability. The proposal describes the offerer's relevant past and current experience in projects of comparable size, complexity, and similarity. We also factored into our evaluation site visits. We went out and visited 5 golf courses, and we looked at the condition of the golf courses to get an appreciation as to whether the offerer was complying with the contract requirements. And we evaluate the cost realism. Does the cost data appear accurate and reasonable for the proposed efforts contained in the proposal and the results expected? Okay. We use that to assess risk. If the contract is proposing something that in our estimation requires 100,000 man-hours and he's only applying 50,000 man-hours, we know there's a discrepancy. Something's going to be compromised. Look at the financial stability. Is the offerer's organization financially solvent and have strong fundamentals? And we looked at cost. What was the cost to provide the proposed services? And were there any cost avoidances or savings that we could exploit if we were to hire a contractor? Now that concludes the methodology. I'm not prepared to disclose the contents of any of the proposals. I've been trained in the government not to do that, especially in a competition phase. And I know there may be extenuating circumstances here that will dictate whether we do or do not disclose the contents of the proposals. But where I came from, if you did and you were in a competition, you either got fired or you had a lawsuit against you, or you got assigned to a board of directors at some HOA. So I know there's some concern as to whether non-golfers that are on the task force can evaluate a proposal that is looking at maintaining the golf course. Conservatively, I've probably served on 20 source selections in my career. I worked for an organization that bought fighter aircraft for the Navy. I have never flown a fighter aircraft in my life. In fact, I've never even been on one that's been off the ground. But I did compete in source selections. I did participate in source selections, rather, where we evaluate requirements and we look at proposals and we make some judgments. Do those proposed tasks, methodologies, etc., meet the requirements that we gave the contractor to answer? So it's not rocket science per se. You have a set of requirements, you evaluate the proposal, and make a determination whether they're meeting the requirements or not. Now, Bill did an outstanding job identifying the detailed requirements for the proposal. He identified for the golf course all the particulars on how often they had to mow, to what levels the grass had to be, what the appearance of the golf course had to look like, how much pesticides they had to apply, how many chemicals they had to apply, what the frequency was throughout the year. And a similar type of thing with the common area. Okay. I was the one with Val's assistants who developed the balance of the proposal requirements. We asked the contractor for financials, we asked them for their management experience and all the other stuff that you saw in the presentation. So does anybody have any questions?
Did you receive any no bids on this request RFP?
Yes.
Yeah, one.
And I might submit that your United States Naval Laboratory is looking for a General Dynamics or a UNIVAC to bid. In my days in the computer industry, the sort of thing you're talking about is a minimum $10,000. Having read The Life of Ray Schmidt, who just sold Raymo.
We can't hear you.
After reading The Life of Ray Schmidt, who just sold his company to our supplier, and that young man having no training in this, I doubt, I'll bet he would have no bid, because it's too much of an effort to produce such an RFP. There's sometimes no reason for that. We're not building jet fighters, we're maintaining bugs and dirt.
From my perspective, this isn't approximately $1 million contract. This is approximately a $5 million contract. So you have to install some discipline in this. Now, two bidders went to details that were required by the RFP. They thought the award warranted that they go and provide the information we requested for. None of this was derived lightly. We thought all of these were valid discriminators to weed out who's a valid competitor and who isn't a valid competitor for the contract award. Our objective was to preserve the integrity of the golf course and not just look at cost. The cost wasn't the single discriminator here. We looked at all those other 12 elements to ascertain whether we were getting valid proposals or not.
One of the 5 golf courses you visited that you examined, 5 ones you went on.
Yeah.
The courses